just start this now. All right, welcome. If you want this recording to this training session, please email me at training at ZKTeco.co.za. As well as if you have any questions, you can also email me at training@ZKTeco.co.za. I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions, as well as send you the link to this recording, so you can always view this again on your own time. All right, so I'll be closing the chat, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I will address them after the training is finished. So if I do not get to your question while I'm busy presenting, I'll always come back to this as well and then just go through that questions. But otherwise, if you have more in-depth questions, please email me and then I'll be more than happy to help you guys. All right. So this is what we'll be covering today. We'll be going over licenses and how to activate that. We'll also be taking a look at position, how do you resign your employees, as well as how to set up workflow, and then also how to set up the messages on your device. Okay, so how to display messages on your device, public and private messages, as well as looking at the schedule preview by person, and then also doing manual approvals. Okay, so how do you do a manual log, etc. How to set up holidays. We'll be taking a look at configuration, and then on the users, I'll be showing you how to set up groups, users, notifications, as well as how to backup and migrate your database. All right, so that's what we'll be covering today. Let me just switch over to BioTime. Okay, so on the outside of BioTime, so the first thing we'll do is licenses, right? So the outside of BioTime, you are able to activate your license. You don't need to be inside of the software to do it. You will need to go to the About screen. You will see the word here at the bottom. It's About, right? So if I click on this About option here, you'll see a little window pop open with some information on it. So this is not the only way to get to this About screen. So I'm just going to log in quickly. Okay. Let me just do this. Admin. All right, so I'm just logging in. All right, so once we are inside, at the top right corner, you will see a profile picture or profile icon, right? And then if I hover over that, the second option will be About. If I click on that, it will be the same About screen that you saw on the outside of the software. All right, so over here, you will see some information, your customer code, the amount of devices you have available to add, right? So currently we have all 10 spaces is filled, right? So the employee count, we have 6 employees. And then we have out of unlimited, how many apps can you have, etc., etc. Okay, so this is all due to your, or it's corresponding to your license that you bought. You'll also be able to see the software version at the top. But the most important thing here is actually the license activation that you do on this page, right? So you'll see in your case, before you have activated your license, you'll only have 2 options available. You'll have online activation as well as offline activation. Okay, so you won't have this download UPK and you won't have the online upgrade. Okay, so you only have the 2 options. Please, please, please do not use the offline activation method. Okay, so if you have received your license from your distributor or either ZKTeco, please do not go ahead and click on this offline activation. That license is usually, I would say 100%, 100 times out of 100, it will be an online activation, right? So it will be an online license. So you'll need to use the online activation method. Okay, so if you use the offline activation method, that will corrupt that license file. All right, and then you won't be able to activate your license. It will just create a lot of headaches, not only for you, but for your distributor as well as for ZKTeco. Okay, so please use the online activation method with your licenses. If it doesn't work, then we can go on to the offline activation. This is where I would say call your distributor and get them to assist you, right? So they will then assist you with the offline activation method. But I will show you now how to do this, but just for future note, please take note that please use the online activation method. All right, so the online activation method, how do you do a online activation? You'll click on this online activation option over here. It'll ask you to log in. You just input your username and password in that screen. That is now gone, right? Then it will ask you some information about your company. Over here, you can input your company's name, the country that you are currently in, the city, the address, etc., etc. So this is all of this is quite straightforward information. You can just put in whatever you have there, right? Then the SN file, this is the online license file that you would have received from your distributor, right? So it will always have a SN at the end of whatever it's called, right? So if I hover over that, the file name will end with a -sn, all right, .xml. So the XML, that is just the type of the file. So it will be an XML file, and the name at the end of whatever your license is called will be SN, all right. So that's how you know which file it is. So if I click on choose here, it will then show me all of my files, right? So this is an example of a online license, right? So this is for another software, but it will also have that SN at the back. And then if I scroll to the right, you will see it's an XML document. Okay, so that will be an example of the license that you will then select. Once you've selected that, you're gonna say activate, and then once that activates, then your system will be activated. Okay, so that's how to do the online activation. Let's say your online activation doesn't work, all right, and now you have reached out to your distributor, they come and help you. Then this is the following options. This is the following steps that they will use. First, they will download a UPK file, right? So if I click on that download UPK, we'll log in quickly. It'll ask you for the same amount of information that you had when you did the online activation. You will then choose this SN file. So you'll choose the online license that you received. So once I choose that, you say generate whatever, and then it will generate a UPK file. Okay, so it will generate a UPK file. That UPK file is very important. You send that UPK file to your distributor, or they will send it to ZKTeco. So you either have two options, your distributor or ZKTeco. If you're working with your distributor, please work through them. Do not go over their heads or skip them. There is a certain chain of command. So if you're working with them, please follow through with that, right? So once you have sent your UPK file, you will then receive an offline license that was created with your UPK file. So we cannot just create an offline license for you until we have that UPK file. Okay, so that is quite important. And then once you receive that offline license, you will log in, say confirm, and then you will just choose that license. So the end of an offline license will look something like this. So it will have a dash, and then it says license.xml. So it won't say sn.xml, it will say license.xml. Okay, so this is what an offline license will look like. It will just show the license.xml at the end. Okay, so once you've chosen it, you just say activate, and then that will be activated. This online upgrade, this is not something that you will use, but just for interest's sake, this is something that is used if you want to upgrade your license, etc., etc. So you won't usually use this. This is something that your distributor will do. Okay. Then the license migration. What is this all about? This is an example if you have two servers. So currently you have one server, and let's call this server, it's the old server, for example, right? So you have your system installed on that server. You have BioTime running on that server for quite a few years or something. And now you want to move this BioTime to a new PC or a new server because maybe you got an upgrade or something like that. Then first you will install the exact same installation package, right? So if your software, if I just scroll to the top here, if your software's build is this, then obviously On the new PC, it should be the exact same build. Please do not install a different version of the software because that will cause problems. Okay, so use the exact same build, so the exact same installation file that you used to install BioTime, you will then use on that new PC to install it on that new PC. Okay. So once you've installed it on the new PC, you will then come to the old server, and then you will select this export license. Okay, so if I say export license and I type in this password now, it will then download a license, which I'm not going to do. But in your case, you would select that and it will download at the bottom. It will then lie and wait for you in your downloads folder. You copy that over to the new PC. And then once you are on the new PC, you will then choose the import license. You will not choose this online activation, etc., because your license is already activated. Okay, so you'll select this import license. Can I say admin? And then obviously you choose that file that was then exported to your PC, for example. Okay, so once you click on activate, it will then activate that exported license. All right, so very important, this license, even though it has an expiry date, you will see here 2020, this license will expire, but this license is a lifetime license. Okay, so it will never expire, even though it has an expiry date. If it has expired or it's close to the expiry date, please contact your distributor, and then we will create a new license free of charge on a later date. Okay, so please note that this license is not something that you need to renew every couple of years. This is a lifetime license. Once you have that license, it's a lifetime license. Okay, at the bottom here, you can also download some drivers if you had to do the fingerprint or palm or face enrollment, etc. Okay, and then also we have an app on the Play Store that you can also download. Okay, please note that you will need an app license. Okay, so if you did not include this on your license, then you won't be able to do the apps. Maybe while your server or your software is still on the trial license, you can do the apps, but after that trial license is finished and you still have apps enabled on your system, then it will lock you out. So you won't be able to use your system because there's apps enabled. It will tell you that there's a points mismatch or anything like that. Okay, so it will lock you out. Please do not activate apps if you do not have the license to activate the apps. Okay, so apps is an additional thing. If you would like to use apps on your phone, right, then you'll need to have the license for that. I think it comes per app, for example, right? So per app, there's an additional fee per app. Okay, so please note that this is a little bit different. Okay, so let me close this licenses. Now that we've gone through licenses, let's go to operation log. If I go to personnel here. Oh, sorry, this is ZK by security. There we go. Okay, so let's go to position. You will find that underneath the personnel. And then you will see here the second option is position. Okay, so position. This is almost the same as a department or an area. It's just an additional field. It works the same way as the department and the area, right? So if I click through here, you'll see that the layout looks kind of the same. Position is just for your position, right? So if you are the boss or you are the CEO or you are the manager or you are the team leader or an employee. Okay, so how do you set up a position? You will see here on the right hand side, you have a hierarchical view. If I click on this boss, it will only filter boss, but if I click on the folder, then you have drop-down menus that can go all the way until employee. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh this page quickly. So it will show everything. Okay, so you will have the top position, right? So we called it boss. Okay, you can edit this by either clicking on the paper with the pencil, right? You will see here that once you've created a position, that you cannot change the position code. Okay, so once you've created a position, you can also edit this, by the way, by clicking on the numbers as well. You cannot change the position code, but you can, however, change the naming convention. So you can change the name, whatever it's called, you can change it. Okay, but please note that the numbers are then set in stone. If you want to use that number again, you can always delete that and create your own position. Okay, so how do you add this from scratch? You click on add, a window will pop open. It will automatically increment to the next number, to the next highest number. So let's say the previous number was 55, then the next number will be 56, even though it skipped like 40 numbers, for example. Okay, so please note that it will increment to the next highest number. We currently have 6 here. I don't know what position there is instead of employee. So I'm just going to leave this. I'm not going to create a new one, but I'm just going to show you how to create new ones. You can create a position. You can give it a code. Okay. Make sure that it's unique. It's not the same as the other ones. Then you can call this whatever you'd like. And then you will see here, there's a superior with a drop-down menu next to it. Okay. So if I click on this superior drop-down menu, you'll be able to see all of the other positions that was already created. Okay, so over here, you will select the superior of whatever position you are creating. Okay, so if you are underneath the manager, right, so let's say I'm going to select this manager, but I'm going to say co-manager, for example. Okay, so this is a co-manager position. It's actually underneath, or let's actually say regional manager. That's better. Okay, so regional manager is underneath the CEO. Okay, so he's in above the manager, but he will be in this. If I click confirm, it will be on the same level as manager. Okay, so I will first need to do some adjustments on that. You'll see that now this regional manager is underneath the CEO with the position code number 6. If I say confirm, you will see if I click down here, you will see I have 2 managers here, regional manager as well as a manager. So let's go to the manager. It's number 3. And let's change its superior to be underneath the regional manager. Okay, so if I say, okay, manager, you are beneath the regional manager, then manager is now inside of the regional manager. Okay, so this is how you can create a hierarchical structure for your positions. It's almost the same as the department. It's a little bit different, but it works the same on the same concept. Okay, on the position, you can also import this list if you'd like. First click on import, then you'll need to download the template before you can actually import this. Right, so first download the template. It will look something like this. This is just some test information that you'll be able to change. And then once you're done manipulating the data in an Excel spreadsheet, you can then choose the file again, then upload that information. Okay, then also if you want to transfer certain personnel, let's say you want to transfer all of the regional managers, or you want to make someone a regional manager, let's say confirm here. So he's currently in the support, right? If I say confirm, then you will see that the regional manager now has 1 employee. Okay, so if I click here on this one, I say personnel transfer. I want to make people an employee. Let's choose these 2 people here. I'm going to say confirm. Now I have 2 people in my employee position. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. Let's go to the resign. So you will find resign underneath employee. Okay, so resign will be over here. You will see that currently we have no employees that are resigned. Let's go to the employees and let's create someone that I can quickly resign. Let's create someone. Just going to choose this and that. I'll say 111, for example. I'm going to say confirm. So now I have an employee named 111. Okay, let's resign that person. I'm going to select him. I'm going to say, okay, you are now resigned. You will find that underneath the personnel transfer, you will see the resignation. If I click on that resignation, you'll be able to select what was the type of resignation. Did he quit? Was he terminated? Did he resign? Did he transfer to a different job? Or did he retain his job without salary? Okay, so I'm just going to say he was resigned, for example, or let's say he was terminated, right? Is his attendance disabled or enabled? Okay, so usually I think you will use this retained job without salary. You will say that this person is still should still use the attendance, but he won't receive a salary, for example. Okay, but the other cases, I'm sure that you do not want them at the office. So I'm just going to say you are then disabled. Your attendance doesn't matter anymore. Right. So if you say disabled, then they can no longer tag in or out, check in or out on your devices. Okay. When did he resign? Did he resign today, yesterday? You will just select a date over here. I'm just going to select today. For example, his name was too short. Okay, so you can type in a whole paragraph here if you'd like. I'm just going to say his name was too short, and that's why he was terminated. Okay, so then you will see that this employee is no longer here. He was called 111, right? So if I go to the resigned information over here, you'll see here that the employee 111 with the ID number 54 was terminated. Okay, when was he terminated? His attendance was disabled, and this was the reason for this. Okay, you can always edit this record if you want to change something. You cannot change the employee, but you can change the other information. You can also delete this record. If you delete this record, then this person will be off of your database. You won't be able to add them again. You will be able to add them again, but it will be a lot of manual work, but they will not show up on your database anymore. Okay. But if you want to keep them here, that's totally fine. You can always reinstate this person. Okay, so if you say reinstate, it will, if you had any biometric data on this person, that person's biometric data will still be saved on the system, so it will not delete that person's biometric data. So I'm just going to transfer this guy again. Confirm. Just want to see here. Okay, so this person, you can always import a list, right? So you can always import a resigned list again. First, remember that you will need a template. Okay, so I've already explained how to do the imports. You can always reinstate someone. You can disable attendance. Let's say this one was enabled. Let's change this to enabled, for example, just so I can show you. Right, so this guy's attendance was enabled. Let's disable this employee. Confirm. Now that person can no longer tag in or out or clock in or out to receive time, work time. Okay, so that is how you do the resign. Please remember, if you have any questions, you can email me or you can ask the question in the session. I will answer the questions afterwards. Okay, let's go to workflow. Okay, so workflow has two options there, role and builder. Okay, so first you need to create roles, and then we will be able to create different workflows with the roles that we created. Okay, so I'm just going to close these, the tabs here at the top. All right, so we're back on workflow. Let's add a workflow to the system. I'm going to say add, and I'm going to say number 1, for example. I'm going to call this, this can be anything really. Just going to say EMP, for example. This can be anything. I'm just going to say confirm. Right, so you'll see here that this role, EMP, has no employees added to this. How do you add employees? You will see here, assign employee at the top. So I will select this, click on assign employee. Over here, you will select a few employees, for example. I'm going to say confirm. Now I have 4 employees on this workflow role. But this currently does not do anything for me yet. Okay, so currently I only created a role, workflow role, and I added 4 employees to this. If I click on this workflow role, you will see the employees listed on the right. Okay, you can always remove them from this. Let's say I don't want training, and that person is no longer in this. If I refresh this page, you will see that there is a 3 instead of a 4. Okay, so this is the workflow role. Let's actually start to build a workflow. So you'll need roles. So I will just add one for, let's do one for the position. Let me quickly see here. Where is that? There we go. Okay, so you'll need different roles. So over here, I am going to say This should be, for example, boss. Okay, so we have one boss. Let me just take these guys off. Okay, so we have one workflow role named boss. Let's add another one. I am going to say number 2 here, and I'm going to say manager. Just going to call it man. Okay, so then I will select a manager for this role. Let's choose this person. Okay, so that person is a manager. Let's add another one. And this will be number 3, for example. And I'm just going to say team leader. Okay, this can be anything. All right. And I'm going to select a different user. Okay, so now everyone has one person. So remember, these roles can have multiple people added to them. Okay, so if there's multiple people added, let's add some people to this manager, for example. I'm just going to add a couple of other people as well, not Hendrik, because he's already on something else. Just going to add these 3 people. Okay, so you'll see here that Martin, Nazreen, Joseph, and 111. And Wandile is on this one. Okay, so there's a few people in the manager role. Let's go to the builder. And let's add it for, you can have 3 options here. You can either do it for a department. If I do this for a department, you'll be able to choose a role. So let's say the boss, let's say the team leader, and then the team leader at the top, bottom. So over here, you will select a code. This is just a code for this workflow. You can call it whatever you'd like. So let's say this is approvals. There you go. Okay, so approvals, then content type. Okay, so let's say this person needs to approve manual logs or leave. Let's say when someone applies for leave, then they need to approve this leave type. Okay, so here we will select a department. Let's say this was only for support. So if anyone in support applies for leave, what should then happen? Let's select a date. Let's say anywhere between today and the end of time. I'm just going to select here the 31st. Okay, so anywhere between today until the 31st, if anyone in support applies for a leave, right? So applies for leave, then these persons at the bottom should first approve this. Okay, so that's why I call it approve. So they will have to sign off on this. Okay, so over here, you will always choose the own department. You won't really choose the all, so just choose all own department. Okay, so remember that your employees has been added to different departments. Okay, so that's something that you need to remember. So over here, you will select your role that you want. Okay, so the approver from workflow team leader, then the notifier from the team leader, right? So team leader will then notify you that you have something that you need to assign on. So let's add another step in this workflow. So once your team leaders are done, then we'll go to the next role, select that person's that need to sign off of this, and let's add another one. Let's add the boss. Whoever has the position of boss is then the one that has the last say. Okay, so if there is multiple people like we have in the like the managers, right? So we have 4 people in our managers group. It means that any one of those 4 people can sign off on anyone in support if they applied for leave. Okay, so any one of the 4 people, if you have more than one person in that role, then any one of those people can then sign off on this. Okay, so once I say confirm, now I have created a workflow. That means that it's only for support. If I click on this, you will see that first your team leader needs to sign off on it, then your manager, and then your boss. Okay. You have if I click on this, you will see that this is currently the workflow, right? So we have our team leader, then it goes to the manager, then it goes to the boss. Okay. Then if you have for position, it's exactly the same thing. It still works exactly the same. Or for the employee, over here, it's the same thing. Okay, so the only difference is you can either set this up per employee or per position or per department. Okay, so anyone in that department that is a team leader, for example, you can then set it up like that. So if you have multiple team leaders across your company in different departments, let's say you have a team leader in support, marketing, sales, and then you have managers in all three of those as well, and then you have the boss at the top, then anyone in those departments can then sign off on it. All right, so that is why you do not select all. If you select all, then it means that anyone across the company can notify you or approve this. Okay, so that's why you choose the own department. So in this department, that person needs to be inside of this department, for example. So let's say if I edit this again, I'll just show you here. It will mean that the team leader in this department, which is support, will then be the person that needs to sign off on the people inside of support. Okay, so that is how you set up a workflow builder. Let's go to device and then go to message. I'm just going to drink a quick sip of water here. My throat is getting quite dry. Okay. So on the device tab, once you've added your devices, you can then display messages on the screen of your device, right? So you'll have two options available to you. You have the public as well as the private, right? So you have two options available. The public means that this is usually a message that will display on the screen of the device at all times. Doesn't matter if someone is tagging there or not, tagging in or out. So that message will then display on that device any time of the day, right? The private, for example, is if someone specific tags on that device, right? So let's say Marnu, for example, he tags on the device, and then a specific message directed to him or to that employee will tell the person that tagging in or out to please go to, let's say, for example, the principal's office or the boss's office or something, right? Or maybe there's a meeting on that day. It will tell you that there's a meeting at 10. Please make sure that you are there, right? Or maybe it's his birthday. Maybe you want to say happy birthday to that one person that tags on that device. Okay, so you have two options available. Let's first go to the public. I am going to select the public option and I'm going to click on add. Right, so you'll be able to select your device. So if you did not add any devices, unfortunately, you will not be able to select any devices. But let's say you want this message to show over 5 devices and not over the others, right? So let's say these devices are in the warehouse and you only want the warehouse people to see this message, then you're just going to select those devices. You are going to select the time when this message should start broadcasting. I am going to select today and I'm going to select the time at the bottom left. Let's say this should start at 5 o'clock in the morning. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, the duration is 1 hour, right? Let me just make this. Okay, so I think this is for the whole hour. That's why that is on 60. So I'm just going to leave that. Then the content, this is obviously the message that will then display on the screen. Okay, so over here you can say happy warehouse day, for example. Okay, so I'm just going to say confirm. Then on those 5 devices, it will display that message. If I select this one and I say send message, then it will send that message, okay, for an hour long. Okay, so you can have messages display on a device, multiple devices. If I select send message, it will then send this message, happy warehouse day, to those 5 devices. Okay, So that's what you can do on this. Let's go to the private. It's exactly the same thing. If I click on add, it just looks a little bit different. Let's click Marne, for example. I'm going to select him and I'm going to say, okay, this should start on the 13th of October. I'm going to select a date, a time. Let's select 5 o'clock. Can I say confirm? So 5 o'clock in the morning on the 13th of October. The duration should be an hour and it's going to say happy birthday or B-Day. Okay, so happy B-Day will then be displayed on this on the devices if I say confirm. So please note that you did not select the device. Okay, so this is across all of your devices. If anywhere on all of your devices, if this person tags on a device, it will then display that message to them. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Here you will select your devices and select the put in the content of your message that you want to display. On the private, you will select an employee, and doesn't matter where that person tags, he will then receive this message saying happy birthday for an hour starting at 5 o'clock. Okay. You can also send this message again. All right. So that is the messaging. Let's quickly go to the attendance. We are now about halfway into the training or into this webinar. Let's quickly go to schedule preview, view by person. Okay, so view by person is a quick way of seeing who is added to what schedule. Okay, so you'll be able to see who's added to what schedule on this view by person. Obviously, you will only see this added by person. Okay. Sorry about that. So if I select anyone really, let's select Marne, for example. Let's go. Is no one added to a shift? Let me see here quickly. All right. So currently there are no shifts. That's why the nothing is displaying. But let's say you had shifts, then you will see these shifts display if I select one of those employees, right? So I apologize for this. We had shifts this morning. Okay, so that's why you will not see any shifts. But if you select on this view by person and you select a employee, it will then display all of your shifts per employee. So if one dealer will maybe, for example, work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then next week, Thursday, Friday, and then the next week, etc., etc. So this will have colors depending on if you added colors on your shifts, etc. Okay. So this view by person, you will be able to see all of the shifts if you've added like that. Okay, let's quickly go to approvals. Approvals. Okay, so on approvals, I will show you how to do a manual log. If you have manual clock ins or clock outs, maybe before you received your device and you want to add those clock in hours or those hours that your employees worked, you want to add that to your system, then how do you add that? You need to do a manual log. Okay. So over here, you will select manual log on the left-hand side. It's underneath approvals. And I will then say add. Let's add some manual logs, right? So I'm going to select an employee. You will need to know the employee ID or at least one of the numbers inside of the employee ID. You will select a date and a time. I will select the 12th and it was 5 o'clock. I'm going to say confirm. For example, so I tagged 5 o'clock today. I checked in or I checked out, or what did I do? I checked in, for example. If you have a work code, then you can put in your work code there if you'd like. Then also if you have an attachment, maybe like a doctor's note or anything like that, maybe a photo that show that you were there, for example, you applied, let's say, for example, the device was offline, for example. Okay. So if I say here the device was offline, now I have a record that is pending. Okay, so I'm going to add another one for the same employee. Or let's choose this one, for example. I'm just going to choose that one. No, sorry, the state, select the time, confirm, and I'm going to say confirm. Okay, not wrong employee. Let's choose this one, confirm. And I'm going to add another one. Marnu, and I'm going to select a time which is not yet transpired. So please note that you cannot change or select the time in the future, because obviously that has not happened yet. Okay, so you cannot choose 43, for example. Okay, so I'm just going to say here, this was a checkout, confirm. Now I have 3 manual logs, right? So I have 2 check-ins as well as a checkout. Okay, so you will see here at the top that we have a couple of options that you can do. I'll first do this one, for example. You can reject this. If I say reject, you can put in a reason. I'm not going to do that. You'll see here that the image changed from red or from blue to red. Okay, so this was rejected by admin, for example. Okay, so this was rejected. Let's approve some of the others. I'm going to say approve. Approve. There we go. Both of them were approved. And now they are no longer blue. They are now green. Okay. You can always reject or revoke something that you approved. So I'm going to say revoke this. It will now turn orange. They will see I have a revoke. Okay. So if something was approved, it's green. If something was rejected, it's red. If something was revoked, it's orange. And if something is pending, it's blue. Okay, so you can always reject, approve, or revoke something. Once it's revoked or rejected, you will then have to reapply for that manual log. So you won't be able to change this back to approved or something like that. Okay, so you can only do it from the pending state. You cannot do it from the revoke or the rejected. You can also import a list, right? So all of these manual logs, you can do this on Excel spreadsheet. If you'd like, just download the template first and then import that once you're done. Then let's go to leave. So leave is exactly the same as your manual logs. It's just a little bit different. If I click here on add, you'll see here that I can select my employee, etc. You will then select the pay code. So that is the only thing that's a little bit different to the manual logs. Manual logs, you didn't have to select a pay code, but for leave, you will have to select a pay code. Maybe this person was sick, or this was their annual leave or casual leave or maternity leave. This here, you will select it here and then say till when are they on this leave, for example. Let's say they're on leave from Thursday until Saturday, for example, right? And then here you will say maternity leave, and then for this employee, for example. Okay, so you will be able to set the leaves according to that. If I just want to see here. Okay, so both of these options have this add more option available. Okay, so if I have here an add more, this just means that if someone, let's say more than one employee, I am going to deselect this one because he will give problems. Let's say more than one employee tags in at the exact same time. I'm just going to say here 4 o'clock, confirm, right? So if everyone checked in at the exact same time, then this will be a great way of doing it, right? So if you don't worry about the minutes when they checked in for those days that you do not have the records, you just want to add them. They started at 8. You don't have to add them manually one by one. You can just select multiple employees with the add more option. You can do the work code if you have a work code as well as a reason. I'm just going to confirm this. And now I have a bunch of check-ins at 5 o'clock, for example. Okay, so that is a way to do the add more. So add more than one employee for the manual log as well as the leave. Same thing. You will still select the pay code and then the employees, etc. Then the overtime is the last thing that I need to do here on the approvals. It's the same as the leave and the manual, right? So you also have the add more option as well as the normal add. The only thing that's a little bit different on the pay code, it's not your leaves, it's just what kind of overtime do you want to receive, right? So do you want to apply for overtime level 1, 2, or 3, or holiday, weekend, regular hours, or just normal overtime? Okay, so you can then select whatever you'd like there. Again, reject, approve, as well as revoke will also work the same. Okay, so this pulls through right through the other two options here as well. Let's go to holiday. That is the next thing I need to go through with you guys. You'll be able to set up holidays in this system, right? So how do you set up a holiday inside of ZK BioTime? You will click here on add. You'll be able to name this. Let's call this Christmas, right? And you will select a date. Let's select December the 25th, but I am going to choose 2014, for example. Okay, so Christmas started in 2014 on the 25th of December. How many days is this holiday? Is it more than one day? If so, you can change or adjust the dates. Okay, so the number here, you can also give it a color. I'm going to give it a nice vibrant red for Christmas. If someone works on Christmas, is this overtime? What kind of overtime is this? Is it holiday overtime as soon as they are finished, right? So you'll be able to set up your overtime on this as well, right? So it's the same as how you set up your overtime in the rules as well as the shifts, etc. Okay, so if you know, if you don't know how to do the overtime, we already covered this in the basic. Then in the group, if I select here a group and a department, it will mean that this holiday only applies to everyone in the company, or this only applies to, let's say, for example, repairs and marketing. So only for those two departments, they get this holiday. And then also the group, if you have created groups, then you can obviously select that group. Okay, so we don't have a group. I'm just not going to select a group there, for example. And this holiday is only for marketing and repairs. Okay, so over here, you will see I now have two holidays, one for marketing as well as one for repairs, both called Christmas, the same day. None of the other departments have this holiday. Okay. So you can have certain holidays apply to certain departments. Obviously, if you have multiple departments, you might have multiple holidays. Okay. Unless you, so once you've added a holiday, you cannot change the advanced options, right? So you cannot change this. You'll need to recreate it if you want to change it. I just want to see here quickly. Just want to change this to the main company. And I'm going to call it 1-on-1 or just 11. There we go. Okay, so if you want this holiday to apply to the whole company, then obviously you will just select that ZKTeco. But if you want each department's individual holiday, then you'll select each department, for example. Okay, so that's the difference between that. I'm just going to delete this item over here. Now we have our first holiday. Okay, so you'll notice that on the holidays, it doesn't have a cycle option. Okay, so every year you will then have to change the dates of these holidays, make sure that the dates are correct. So yeah, that's just something to take note of. There's no cycle date or anything like that. If you set it up here for just this date, it's just for this date. You'll have to set it up for next year again. Okay, so that's the only thing you need to know about the holidays. The configurations, let's quickly go to configuration. On configuration, you'll be able to set the format of your dates shown in the software. If you wanted to display as year-month-day, or if you wanted to display as something else, you can always select that option over here. So I'm going to select, I like the slashes instead of the dashes, so I'm just going to use that. Then the short time format. How do you want your time to display in your reports or in the system? I am just going to keep that on the hours and minutes, so that's fine, but you can change this however you'd like. Then also, do you want the resigned employees to display in your reports? If this is a yes, then you'll still see those reports with the resigned employees' times that they tagged in or out, depending on if they were enabled or disabled. Then on the filter by hired date, you can also have that available, right? So if you select this, yes, it will mean that you can filter the employees by their hired date. Okay, so you will also see here, if I hover over this, it says when it is enabled, it is not necessary to assign a schedule to an employee. Apply manual log, leaves, overtime, training, schedule adjustment, and process attendance calculation for the date before the employee hired. Okay, so if the filter by hire date is activated, you will then not need to worry about the hired date. Let's say if you want to pull a report and then they were not hired before that date, for example. Okay, so that is the hired date. I'm just going to leave that on yes. So this is for your system. Let's quickly go to user as well as database. Okay, so you'll find user underneath your system. You will see here on the left-hand side, it says user, group, user, as well as notification. So this is a way to manage your login. So your employees that log into your system, right? So let's say you have a branch, you have a few branches, your company has a branch in Cape Town, Johannesburg, Centurion, for example, Pretoria, Hartbeespoort. If you have multiple branches, then this is a way that you can then manage them. Okay, so in a sense, you do not want employees from Cape Town to see or view or add times, check-ins, check-outs for employees that work in Johannesburg. Okay, so that will just be very confusing if you have that enabled like that. But if you want them to only view and change the information in their own departments, then this is the way you will have to go about doing it, right? So you'll have to create groups, then users, then notifications. So let's first create a group. I will click on add. You can call this, for example, Centurion, right? So this is for the Centurion branch. Okay, so if someone is added to the Centurion group, it means that they can, if I select everything here, as well as everything there, and everything there, and everything there, or let's not select the payroll, the access, visitor module, meeting, etc., etc. You can select what your employees that is linked to this Centurion group will be able to see, view, change, edit. Okay, so if I deselect this system, it will mean that they will not be able to see this system module here at the right-hand top side. If I use this drop-down menu, you'll see that underneath the user, we are currently in the group. So if I go to group, if I deselect this add, right? So if I have everything else added or ticked, etc., except this add, it means that I cannot create another group like I'm doing right now, or I cannot edit or delete the other groups, but I can maybe view the group. That just means that I can see what I can see and what I can't see, for example, right? So if I create something like this, I would usually just select what I want the employees to be able to do. Maybe they should just be able to, underneath the employees, They should be able to add employees, edit, delete, etc., etc. If this is usually a receptionist or someone that just pulls reports, then obviously I don't want her to handle the devices or the personnel, right? I just want her to see the reports. Okay, so here you'll take off the shift, the break, the group rule, etc., etc. So she won't be able to mess with that. The only thing that she can do is look at the reports, for example. So if I scroll down here, you'll see report permission. Okay, so if I have that one ticked, then she will only be able to see the reports. So if I scroll down here, you will see that she will be able to calculate for this report, pull reports, etc., etc. So if you only want this person in the Centurion branch or the Centurion group to be able to do reports, then you'll just select this report permission, for example. Okay, so once they log in, then they will only see the reports at the top, and they will only be able to manipulate the information inside of the reports option. Okay, so if I say confirm, now I have a group called Centurion, and Centurion, if I open that up again, it will only be under attendance. This person can only do the reports. Okay, so if I go to user, now you will see that we already have one user. Okay, it's already called admin. That is the default user that you are assigned to. You always have a admin user. Okay, so this is the user that I used to log in. I've currently logged in 308 times. Okay, or this is a shared account. So out of the employees that we have logged in accumulatively 308 times already. Okay. You'll also see when last did someone log in, when did they join, etc., etc. Okay, so let's add a new user to the system. I'm going to say add. You can input any username that this person should use. Currently, we have admin, and then the password is also associated with that, but you can use this whatever you'd like. I'm just going to say REC, and then I'm going to say 123, for example, 123. Then on this first name here, you will give this person a name. Let's say this was Claudine. Okay, last name Z, for example. Email, you'll give it an email, for example. And then the fingerprint quantity. So this fingerprint quantity, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you are outside, when you're logged outside of BioTime, you have an option to use your fingerprint to log in and out. Okay, so if you have a fingerprint reader, then you can use this. But if you do not have a fingerprint reader, then you can also just skip this. This is not really necessary. If this person is ticked as a super user, it means that that person is basically an admin. There's no rules that apply to this person. They can view all of your modules at the top, etc., etc. If I disable this, we'll get some additional information. If this person is enabled, it will mean that they can log in and out. If it's disabled, it will mean that this person cannot log in. Okay, so let's just enable this person, for example. Then also you'll be able to choose the authorized department, as well as the area, as well as the groups. Okay, so this is very important for the reason that I've mentioned earlier. Let's say you have a different branches, right? So we have one in Cape Town or one in Centurion. So we just created one group. Okay, so usually for that group, I wouldn't call it reception. I know I call it Centurion. Usually you'll call that maybe like a reception or something like that, or just a report puller or something. So you just know what that group is all about. Okay, so you'll select your department. Okay, so where does this person, let's say this sales was our Cape Town branch, as well as support was Johannesburg. So let's say this person works in Johannesburg, and they'll be able to manipulate the information inside of those departments But remember, they are only in Centurion group. So Centurion group can only pull reports. So they can only pull reports from the employees inside of support as well as cleaners. They can't do anything else. The authorized area, right? So this is for the devices. So if you have devices on these areas, then I would suggest that you select them. Okay, so please do not select this not authorized. That's not really necessary. Just leave that out. Just select the areas that you want this person to be able to pull reports from or manipulate the information. So if in the groups of Centurion, I enabled that this person in Centurion was able to add devices or change or edit devices, then on this authorized area, it will then allow this person to view that devices inside of EC as well as hard disks. Okay, so that is what this authorized area is all about. If I say confirm now, I will need a password that's a little bit stronger. I'm not going to worry about this because I'm not going to log in with this user, so I'm not going to do this. But in your case, please make sure that your login details is according to Scratch. Okay. So over here, this is our one. If you want to edit this, you can always edit it if you'd like, etc., etc. Then the notification. Over here, you will see that all of these notifications was sent right to these employees. Remember, we created workflows. Okay, so we created workflows. Therefore, these notifications were sent to certain people. Okay, so you'll see here that it was sent. These devices were offline. That's what this notification was. Oh, my bad. So sorry, this is the manual log. So remember, I applied for manual logs. It was sent to the notifications. So if you have on your workflow, if you go to your workflow, you will notice that there is a notifier. Okay. So here on this system, you will see the notification. You will see that this is something that was sent. And I am currently logged in as admin. So I'm just going to say read mock calls read. Okay, so now all of these notifications were read, etc. I have now approved them, basically. Okay, so this is what this is all about. You only have the two options available, mark all as read, as well as delete. So if you want to delete these records or notifications that you received, you can also delete that. Now I have deleted those records. Okay. Let's go to database, backup, as well as migrate. This is the last two things I will cover with you guys. So you'll notice that I already backed up once. Okay, so you'll see here that there's a backup. It's called BioTime. The operator who did it was admin. When was this backup, right? You'll also see the storage path where this is saved to, right? Please note that this is an SQL. This is an SQL file, right? So a SQL file. Then also the status, was this successful or not? Was this a manually backup? Okay, so you have two options here available. Automatically backup. If I click on this automatic backup, you will see that you cannot change the database information. You can change to where this file should save to, right? So by default, you will then set up a file for this. When should this start saving? Should it save every day, every week, monthly, right? So if it's monthly, it means the first day of the month. Weekly, then you'll select your days, as well as daily will then be every day, obviously. Okay, so when does this operation take place? If it's on 1 o'clock a.m., it'll mean that every day at 1, your system will create a backup at wherever the path is you set. Okay, so how do you set your path? You will need to go to your File Explorer. Let me just share this with you. No. Let me share this as well. Okay. So you should be able to see this. Okay, so you'll see here at the top, we have our quick access. Let's go to download, for example. Right, so we have our thing here. If I click on this field here at the top, you'll see here that this is now, or let's click this folder. This is a better information or a better example. If I click on this, you will see that it will highlight all of the folders. So each folder is within inside of something else. If I copy that, Control C, or I just right click and say copy, right? If I close this and I paste it into here, then you will see that there is now, this is now the path. Okay, so every day at 1 o'clock AM, it will then save this to this folder. This is how you will set up that storage path, by the way. Do you want it to save the photos? If yes or no, you will select that. Okay, so I'm not going to confirm this, but that is how you set that up. Then how to manually backup. If I say manually backup, you'll also select the path. Where do you want to save this? So this was saved to the DB. So I'm just going to say backup manually. I'm going to say C. There we go. And this one DB. And then just use that one again. I don't want to back up the photos, for example. I'm going to say confirm. And then it will say successful if it was successful. Okay, so you'll see here that now I've created a manual backup. Okay, so it was today. This was the time that it happened. And then also this was the name of this. I'm going to cancel this. Okay, so you can always download. This backup. If you want to download this backup, you can do that as well. You'll just click on this name. It will then download this backup, right? This backup file. So let's say you want to restore a different backup. You'll do this restore manually. Okay, so over here, you'll input your database name. Okay, so for example, this was BioTime. So I'm just going to say BioTime. Okay, BioTime. Oh, sorry, my bad. It was a small letter like that. Then also, where was this saved to? Then obviously you're going to copy that information over here and then paste it in there. Okay, so you'll copy the information, C :/DB/ and then the whole name. Okay, so the whole name with the .SQL at the end. That's very important. This is the storage path. This is where the backup file is located. So you'll need to do the whole name with this. Okay, so you'll do 2021, etc., .SQL at the end. Okay, so that is how you do a restore manually. Do you want to restore the photos? Yes or no? Okay, so that will restore that information. Let's go to Migrate. Migrate is a little bit different, right? So here you have 4 options that you can migrate from. You can either migrate from our old software, ZKTime Web 2.0, if you have that still. You can select that one if you'd like, or if you want to migrate from our older version of BioTime 7, you can do that as well. And also the WDMS, if you have that as well as time.net 3.0. Okay, so those are the 4 options you have available to you. If you select any one of these, you can you will see that some of the options are available or not. Okay, so this is just due to certain compatibility issues, right? So ZKTimeNet cannot do device as well as position. Okay. So let's say I want to migrate this database from ZKTimeNet. I will then select my database type, the database type that you have for this ZKTimeNet. Let's say this is, for example, I think it's a Postgres. You'll call it the name, right? So you'll need the database name. So you'll need to know the name as well as the address, where to find this file. Remember, it has those slashes in, what, slash, what. Okay, please note, that is important. Then also the port number. I think this is by default the port number, so you'll just leave the port number. The user, what is the user as well as the password for this database. Okay, then over here you will select the things you want imported, right? So if you want the migration area zone, department, employee, transactions, that's the only things you can import from ZKTeco. So once you've set up all of your information here correctly, you can then test connection. This was not successful because the information input was not correct, right? So if you select something else here and you input the information correctly, you will then say test connection. And then once that is successful, you will then say migrate. Okay, so over here, you will see that this is kind of grayed out. You will see that migrate is grayed out. That is why you cannot migrate. But once this test connection is successful, then you can choose the migrate option. And then this will then start to migrate from this file that you've selected, right? Okay, then obviously if you want to reset everything, this will then just refresh everything. Okay, so it will just take everything away. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stop the recording here.